Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here today to speak about what's happening in the world of bio, med, and health tech, along with telemedicine. And for today's discussion, we may refer to that just as bio or health tech as well, but we're going to be talking everything health and what's happening from the world of investment along with entrepreneurship. Where are people building? Where are the new companies coming from? But also, where are the investment opportunities? What should we be looking at? Where should we be paying attention to? Not just in terms of categories, but also regions around the world, as so much has happened over the last year, but even more so the last decade, and looking ahead, much more to come in the next few years. So we brought together, as we do every episode here on VCTV, the best and the brightest from around the world that focus on this area to share with you their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective of what's happening in these industries and other areas of technology, industries, and regions around the world. We'd love to have you on the show, those that are tuning in today. So do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. And entrepreneurs, there's also a spot for you, not just for investors, to join us on the virtual stage that we've built here at VCTV for you to get up on and pitch us your company, product, or service, get real-time feedback, build foundational relationships with each of us, and exposure to the entire VCTV family who tunes in every day, all day to VCTV episodes around the world. And as you hear from today's speakers, if you'd like to hear more after connecting with each of them, check out the archive on LATOKEN.com, as we've got tons of footage, not just from 2020, but already here in 2021, of all different types of industries and technologies and where are things today and where things are going as well. And speaking of that team, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and introduce our outstanding guests and panelists today. Wendy, welcome back to the show. Pleasure kicking you. You're kicking us off today. If you can, a little intro, a little background, please.
Hi, I'm Wendy Diamond. Thank you so much, Kyle, and everyone at LATV. Woohoo! I'm Wendy Diamond. I'm the founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, celebrated in 144 countries with and in over 100 universities and colleges around the world to empower, celebrate, and support women in business to alleviate poverty. And we work with the governments, business leaders, civil society to collaborate to find solutions to do so, with a big focus on health. And I'm also an impact investor that focuses on women-led and impactful disruptive technology companies, and excited to explore and discuss investment opportunities.
Absolutely wonderful. And I know on the impact side, health is also one of those areas that we've talked about as well. So excited to dive in that with you here in just a moment, Wendy. Raghu, welcome back to the show as well. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you, Kyle, and VCTV. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a business advisor, and also help with doing some impact investments, but in the disruptive spaces in biotech, green tech, and cyber tech. And I help companies from seed to harvest, helping with strategy, planning, execution, and exit.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Raghu, and welcome back. I know this is an area of great expertise for you, along with security, which we'll be talking about on both sides today. So welcome back. Again, pleasure to have you. Mr. Gary Fowler, the Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence himself, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to have you back today. A little intro and a little background.
Yeah, sure, Kyle. It's great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler, and great to see my friends here today. So I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. Built 17 companies, been involved in 2 unicorns, was on the original management team at Click Software, did an IPO on NASDAQ, changed the name of the company. Company was sold 20 months ago now to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. And also EVA, which is a company I founded 4.5 years ago. EVA is one of the top AI HR tech companies. And I found it with David Yang, a billionaire from Russia. Write a lot. I'm involved now in a lot with quantum computers and artificial intelligence. And Raghu sent me some things, I believe, over the weekend. He's keeping me updated. And by the way, Raghu, I just published one a few minutes ago in Forbes. So keep giving me the information. And we love artificial intelligence because AI is a new electricity. But as the dawn of a new era, quantum computers are coming in line very, very quickly, and it's going to change everything. And it's including health tech. So it's great to be here and great to be involved in the discussion today.
Awesome. Excited to talk about quantum, specifically when it comes to how that will work in conjunction with artificial intelligence and some of the areas like genomics that we've spoken about before, and the bigger picture around bio. But we'll come back to that here in just a moment as well. And last but not least, Lubna, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure. Happy Monday. A little intro, a little background, please.
Hello, thank you, and a very happy Monday to you as well. I'm Lubna Dajani, and I am a technologist, a serial entrepreneur, an impact investor, and a coach to several startups in tech innovation. My interest in much of the interest is, again, as you know, around security and well-being and the applications of technology in that space. Thank you for having me here again today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lubna. Raghu, I want to come to you today to kick us off on kind of the current state of where things are around bio and health tech in general. Again, as we spoke about in your intro and just prior, this is an area you focus on. You do a lot of research in this space as well. Tell us kind of where you're seeing things at here as we kick off 2021 in those areas.
Well, much as we would wish it. The pandemic is, I think Wendy and I were talking a little bit. Unfortunately, it's not gone away, especially the deployment of the vaccine is going to be there for the next year, given the size of the population that has to be addressed. And related to that is the opening up of the society in terms of public participation, right? So that supply chain and the vaccine and the testing and diagnostic area, I think, is going to be still hard for the next year. I was thinking 6 months, but I think the pace at which things are going, it's going to take at least a year, I think, before we get back to the new normal. So that is one area. I think the other things that are kind of getting a little bit on the back burner will again come back, like oncology, diabetes, and some of these which are, the huge affected patient populations are there. So I think in the short term, I think the vaccine related and the deployment, the supply chain opportunity, I'm working with a couple of companies in the diagnostic area, and there's a lot of activity that's happening.
And what is some of that activity, if you could share a little bit more around supply chain? I mean, we know that supply chains were greatly disrupted in 2020, but now looking ahead, there's been a lot of technology advancements in the greater global supply chain. So when it comes to bio and pharma, what are you seeing happening in the supply chain space right now?
Okay, specifically, we're working in India and in the, I guess, parts of that. See, the supply chain is very different, for instance, in India and the US. US, it's all happening through the states, whereas in India, there's a central government that's able to do it. And you can see the huge difference because there's only one button to push, whereas here, it's like so many different states. Every state has its own different way of doing things. And there's a lot of gap where things are getting lost. And in fact, there's also this, the Operation Warp Speed vaccine, and then there's the Pfizer vaccine, which are like going through totally different supply chains as well. So there's a lot of confusion I see in the US market, especially right now, compared to, say, India. But India has its own other challenges. So I think one of the things is, of course, the storage, actually getting it to the kind of last mile, then administering it, then keeping track of it. And then there's a second dose as well. And so I think the storage part of it is a bigger challenge in India than in the US. So I think there are companies that are working on different parts of this. And then the whole thing is that given that we had such a lead time, one would have thought these things would have been in place and going, smoothly, but that's not what my current experience tells me. It's all very ad hoc, unfortunately. And so I guess it will all settle down, hopefully, soon. And there's, of course, the security issue with ransomware that's hitting all these things. So that's another aspect of it. So.
Well, and I want to come back to security in just a moment, because when we look at bio potentially as a platform for others to build on, something Andreessen Horowitz has been talking about, this new operating system of us as well. I mean, security is going to play, along with privacy, a very big role in the future of where that technology and industry goes. And Gary, I want to come to you next on what you're seeing as the current state, and then I've got some stuff around AI I would like to bring to your attention as well.
Kyle, there's so much going on. I don't even know where to start anymore. There's so many interesting opportunities, and I mean, it's across the board. So drug discovery, genomes, gene splitting, robotics. I mean, it's across the board. So what am I seeing? I see that we're really at a dawn of a new era. And because of the amount of data that's being analyzed, they actually have the first version of the Star Trek tricorder. I don't know if you know that. It's called the Viatom Check Me. So it's the first version of it. It's a rudimentary version that does O2, ECG, heart rate, blood pressure, et cetera. But we're coming down to those levels, right? The things that, how many years, 50 years ago, whatever, longer, that Star Trek came out with are becoming reality. So think about what this is going to do to us. So we're using VR and AR for operations, training doctors, to give them real experiences. At the same time, I was on a panel in Europe on drug discovery, and you look at, the fascinating conversation about doing the models for coronavirus on Watson. And so there was 8 of us on this AI panel, and we were talking to the top pharmaceutical companies. This is not a dream anymore. This is reality. Then you take quantum, and I just like half an hour ago published an article in Forbes on quantum, and add that into the mix. I mean, we're set to live a lot longer than we are today, let me tell you. and so it's a bright future. And the companies that are out there, think about all the data that's been generated. Think about the possibilities of gene splitting, right, or slicing, and the possibilities to what that can do to us to be able to live longer, to get rid of the bad things and keep the good in. So smart pills, to be able to, go in and not only diagnose a problem, but then be able to fix it. So the future is so close. And, as Ponce de Leon was looking for the fountain of youth, I think we found it in AI and quantum.
Wow, big, bold statement, but I like it. I think you've got something there. And, I want to come back to you around AI and quantum, I guess, plays a role in this as well, because they're both very expensive, but also time-consuming technologies when they haven't been built from the ground up. So how do you know whether AI is necessarily needing to be applied or worth the application when we're looking at something in the pharma or the bio space as well?
Yeah, I mean, the situation is, so remember, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. So growing up, we had basic kind of things. If it had long ears and a hop, it's probably a rabbit, right? So simple things. So imagine how much data is being generated that a hospital has today. Look inside a patient's room at the amount of data that's there. And so the doctor comes in, and I don't know, if you've been into a hospital lately. I haven't since the coronavirus started, but I can tell you before that, my father was admitted into the hospital, and I could not believe all the devices around him, and the doctor was inundated. I mean, I probed the doctor, inundated with information. So imagine having an intelligent, not smart assistant, AI assistant, to be able to help guide the doctor as they come into the room, to give them the information they need to make decisions, and shortly to be able to make some of those decisions for them. So because in medicine, time many times is of the essence. So we are on the dawn of this era coming in where all this data is available. Think about it. At Stanford University, being able to use computer vision to diagnose cancer, skin cancer, much more accurately than over 20 doctors, 20 of the top skin cancer doctors. Think about what the possibility is. So it is just incredible. What's the problem with cancer? It's not about, getting it removed. It's about destroying the good tissue around it. Imagine having systems that can identify exactly what needs to be removed, and at the same time, being able to take out those nasty genes that cause it. So before it's a problem. So it's insurance. We're gonna have to revisit everything from insurance, et cetera, because I'm not sure how it's going to be used in the future. If we can prevent it, what happens next? Which is, we're close. We're really getting close.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Lubna, I'd like to come to you next, current state and what you're seeing in these spaces of bio and pharma and just general health tech and overall.
Like with all other sectors, AI and technology in general, AI, quantum are accelerating our ability to advance well-being and advance the science, as my colleagues have just said. But I, from one of the companies I'm a coach to, is using AI to do diagnostics of imaging, so they can much more effectively and accurately diagnose, identify COVID infections in CAT scans of lungs than any doctor can, just because it's the quantum speeds that it can and the abilities that AI adds to it. But we can go from that spectrum to our ability to deliver medical services remotely, as we all are having telehealth, things that you never imagined. The industry will get around to things that we've talked about from many years ago that will now make it a lot easier for the elderly and disabled to get actually assistance. But as our homes are also getting smarter, they're becoming more aware. So the technology that is applied in the city or in the home is also enabling us to deliver better health services. All this are on the good side, but it can be as little technology as possible. For example, there's brilliant doctors who are spending lots of time in the emergency rooms dealing with COVID patients, watching the suffering, have come up with this little tool, which is using off-the-shelf technology and an app where the COVID patients who are immobilized are able to, they put this little thing, this voice love tool, which loved ones can call in and send messages and they can hear their voices. So it's technology can be applied. It doesn't have to be quantum and high tech, but it can be created with compassion, and they can keep up with the demand for it, because it's making such a huge impact on the people's recovery, and for even the loved ones who cannot come and visit them. So technology can really help in many ways. But of course, now you also have the other extreme where we're having all the same very technology that is being applied to monitor your state of being, to give you your sleep habits, your sugar levels, what have you, and combined with your emotional state, your assessing your voice, your behaviors, and it's being used on one hand for your own well-being, and but it's also used to further manipulate your buying and cater to your to get you to a yes, or to get your attention in the way that you need to, by applying empathic technologies, by psychology and game mechanics. So it's, the opportunities are spent from saving lives to manipulating buying habits.
It's a good point, and there's a lot to dive in a little further there, which I want to come back to because I have a very big question for everybody. But before I do, Wendy, thank you, Lubna. Wendy, to you, same question. What are you seeing currently happening here around bio and health tech from your standpoint?
Well, I just think right now there's no better time, right? As you see with the pandemic, I mean, it's the first time in history that they have been able to create, I mean, 3 huge companies have been able to create vaccines, and 2 of them, which are at a 95% success rate, which is unheard of in history, right? And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of collaborations. I think what we, when you look at it, if you're a startup or et cetera, there are so many more incubators, especially like colleges and universities. Our foundation, Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, is partners with Columbia University. They have this women's health tech initiative at their HitLab lab. And let me tell you, it's incredible the amount of people that are in this space now. And there's so much opportunity. And I think that when you look at, like, Arizona State University's partners with Mayo Clinic, and they're incubating a lot of really great companies and starting at the college level, right, as well, and enabling that. I'm also very, very, very bullish on blockchain companies. I'm invested in a bunch of blockchain health companies, including Pharma Trust, which really is about eliminating counterfeit, right? And it's about the supply chain and using blockchain as well for the accountability and transparency of the supply chains, because none of us, especially in a lot of different places, more in America, we're pretty okay, but when you go to Africa and stuff like that, there's a lot of counterfeit medication. So solving these different issues and bringing traceability and transparency to the health space, I think, is super important. And I also think understanding I want to know, and I want to have track of all the different doctors and everything I've had in my life. And I wish that we could collaborate more. And I think that with blockchain is going to solve a lot of those issues going forward in the future. And, of course, my whole thing is about how do we empower women. And, a bunch of my friends have created, $50 million and $150 million funds that are actually specifically focused on supporting women founders in the health space. So I think it's a really great time right now. And I think that there's opportunity, whether you're in a seed company, whether you're in a Series B, that there's so many people now focused on health more than ever, and especially impactful health companies. So I think it's a good time.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my big question. And thank you, Wendy. You walked right into it, and I appreciate that. And that is, as investors, where do you put capital? And very specifically, are you looking to put capital in platforms or products? So individual products that serve or are solving a problem, or platforms that are being something that can be built on top of, right, as a service, whether that be bio as a platform or a specific area within that as well. So to each of you, as investors, are you looking for platforms or products? And Raghu, I'm going to kick it off with you.
I actually combine both. I look at products that are a platform, not necessarily from a generic technologies perspective. Just to give you an idea, there's a device for diagnosing COVID right now, right? But it is not just COVID. It does, cancer. It can do allergens. Allergy testing, as you know, is very, very painful in the US. You have to do it against each particular allergen. So this company called Kaya 17, they have this platform, which is a very easy way. Like, there's a cartridge and a reader, and the reader is like a little bigger than your phone. So you can take it anywhere. It can be, in a mobile van or whatever, and then you can do the diagnosis without having to go back to the lab, right? So most of the COVID testing right now, the RT-PCR, which is kind of the holy grail in testing, you have to take it back to a lab, and it takes you anywhere from 24 to 72 hours to get a result. And that kind of defeats the purpose, because while you're waiting for the result, you can get infected, and it's like, all of it is useless, right? So this thing about rapid testing, but it's not just for one disease. It's like a platform, right? So that is the kind of companies I like, which are not one-trick ponies. And similarly, I have another company where it works initially for diabetes. It's like a very ingenious implant that goes into the gastric valve area, does not actually attach to the body in any way, so that it's minimally invasive, but it works for obesity, it works for diabetes, it works for reducing liver fat. So it's like, I think those are the kind of companies that have multiple applications, more like a platform, whether it's drug delivery, whatever it is. So I think that's the ones I like to, because then if one thing fails, you still have the pipeline.
I like it. And Lubna, I want to come to you next on this, Wendy, and then Gary, but Lubna, to you.
Same as Raghu said, it really depends on the opportunities are across the board, whether it's in the delivery or and to some of what Wendy was mentioning, companies that are leveraging blockchain together with embedded security to ensure the not only the authenticity but the transparency on the state of particularly with COVID testing kits and with vaccines, where you need to maintain temperature and you need to maintain so the opportunities across the board from there to technologies that are enabling you to have a better access to your awareness of your own well-being, from better sleep to better delivery of medicine. So it really like the to Wendy's point earlier, it is the opportunities are boundless in the space right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that leads me to Wendy. So Wendy, as I said, everyone's playing into my master plan, which I appreciate. Thank you. Wendy, to you, I mean, you mentioned blockchain as one of the big areas that you're focused on. Similar question, are you looking at platforms or are you looking at products? And it's okay if it's both, but just curious on how you're looking at these from an investor standpoint around bio and health tech.
I think, I personally, it's all about what, comes across my desk, right? And I think, I'm in both, I'm in breathometer, which is a breath device, and which, has all the Shark Tanks invested in it. And, that went from being like just for alcohol that led to being for gut health, heart health, and also the bacteria in your mouth, right? So having a lot of applications for this one unit. And I thought that was, when I looked at that, I thought it was a perfect time to go in that. And we just did a big partnership with Colgate. So it's very exciting. And so that's one of them. I'm also, of course, into blockchain and about traceability, transparency. And, really what I look at is how do I bring my whole network involved in this? So, one of my companies I'm in is called Safely. I brought Mayo Ventures into that. They just closed a $4 million investment in that company through me. And so I think, just about how do we really create partnerships and collaborations so that we can all work together, because when it becomes our health, whether it's, the food that we eat, again, I'm a very into ag tech as well, and about healthy food, right? And about how do we bring transparency into what we're eating and everything, because we are what we eat, right? And the more healthier we eat, the healthier we're going to be as a human. So I think, when I look at things, I look at, number one, is the technology work, right? Number two, the team. Do I love the team? Are they high, impact? Are they high integrity? That is the key. And everybody around them. You want to make sure, because you're going to be, when you get invested in companies, you're going to be working with that whole team, right? And if you're really involved. So I don't really just give money. I really get involved with the companies that I get involved, that I'm actually invested in. And so I think, looking at, what I would invest in, I think I would look, maybe I do maybe one or two a year in the health space. And that's pretty much, I'm open to any ideas that will work, and especially women founded and of course, impactful. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. And Gary, same question to you. Platforms versus products. What are you looking at? What are you choosing to invest in?
Platforms, products, and people. People, the team is number one. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I look at technology is going to make a dent in the universe. So one of the investments I have is in Zemply. And Zemply is remote patient monitoring system. She's a graduate of Stanford University. And it came from my own experience of dealing with my dad. And think about it, over 70 million people over the age of 65 in the US. And the situation, we got this aging population, and how are we going to take care of those people? And, you go to a nursing home, it costs the nursing home they wanted to put my dad in was $14,000 a month. I said, forget about it. So I hired 2 full-time nurses. I put him in my dad's house. I spent $90,000 and redid his house. And I brought artificial intelligence and monitoring into my dad's house. I actually redid his house so it looked like it did when I was a kid. I took pictures of when I was a kid, and in 2.5 months, I redid it. So my dad came in and said, oh my, Gary, this house is sparkling clean. I said, well, Dad, you keep it nice. Little did he know I had to redo the house. So, but what they said, Kyle, this is, how much of an impact technology can make. So my father, they said he was going to die within a week. My father, they said he would never walk or talk again. I took him home in a very comforting environment. I talked to Lubna about this. We've had the discussion in a very comforting environment. My father walked and talked and complained again, which was amazing, because when you love somebody that much and they complain, it's okay, because that's a different kind of love. And I saw miracles happen. I understood then that we've got some challenges around the world of taking care of the elderly. So one of the article you just sent over about the home as a primary site of care, that's 100%, because people live longer. The life instinct, being home helps you live longer, right? And so my father walked and talked again. I get to spend 3 more years with my dad. I got to tell you, to be 1 hour, to be a second with somebody that you love, one more second is worth all the money you have. I had 3 years with my dad. And so what I say is the technologies I'm looking at, the reason I, invested in Zemply is because I went through the challenges of it. I met Aparna. She was talking about her dad had this interesting technology. So we built it. And now it's a growing AI RPM company. So what I look at is she's passionate about it. She had AI involved in the technology, and now she's got revenue. So I look for companies that are going to make a dent. I think in terms of drug discovery now, genomes, gene splitting, I'm looking at that. But where I'm looking at very, very closely right now is quantum computers, and quantum cybersecurity. So that's one of my next articles actually that I'm putting out on quantum cybersecurity. So we have some challenges going forth as a civilization. It's as big as what happened, when we developed the atomic bomb. The cybersecurity and quantum could have that kind of an impact. It is really a revolutionary technology. So we need to make sure we're using it wisely in a good way, because it can solve a lot of problems. At the same time, it's like nuclear power. It can power power plants, but can do some not good things too. Let's figure out how to use it wisely. Let's work together to solve these problems. And let's, I just invested in a space company today, one of the top space companies today. And one of the things is we have so many amazing, beautiful experiences that we can have, exploring the universe. Why don't we focus on that together and, and make a difference? So health tech across the board, I'm interested in it, but I'm looking for team. I'm looking for products that are going to put a dent in the universe. And I'm looking for something that I don't want to wait 15, 20 years. I want to give something that'll happen sooner than later.
I'm excited. I'm ready to start investing right now. You just gave me the best pump up speech along with our audience as well. So with that being said, thank you, Gary. And then to Wendy, Raghu, and Lubna, where do we go next? So looking at the rest of the year here ahead, where are 1 or 2 opportunities that people should be paying attention to that they may not be either building or investing in as well? And Wendy, we'll start with you. Thank you, Gary.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. And I love everyone's thoughts on this. This is fantastic. I think femtech, that's what we all should be looking at and investing in. I mean, that they say that it's going to go to that's like a new term, by the way, right? And that's a term used for describing technologies, products, and services, for women's health and wellness specifically. And that's projected to be 60 billion by 2026. And that's a new term. So as we see a lot.
And real quick, I'm going to interject real quick. So it's a new commonly used term. It's actually a term that had been talked about for, I talked to a few companies and heard some good pitches around this for the past couple of years, but it was actually a term that most people did not want to hear. And it was kind of shunned away, unfortunately. And it's great that it's now a term that people are using in a category that people are focusing on because it's very important. So sorry, Wendy, I just wanted to back you up on that one because it is a good area. Keep going.
Well, first of all, women make up 51% of the population, right? And 80% of the healthcare workforce. So if that happens, making around 80% of household healthcare decisions as well, right? But when you look at all the medical practice and the research and et cetera, it really, remains based on men. So I think femtech is a very important term that we should all be thinking about investing in, because I think, when you think about today, day, and who's making those household decisions, right? And I think, you know, we're more than half the population. I think that's a really important investment.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that as well. Yeah, again, I happen to have some experience with in this space, and it's also just an underserved space. I mean, there's so much opportunity, and I mean that in terms of actually really potential of devices and products and platforms and services, the whole 9 yards, that for years have been started and then just unfortunately didn't make it, and really they should have. And this is now a time more than ever where that market and that category deserves a ton of attention. So again, backing you up, Wendy, highly recommend it to those that are
2% of venture dollars go towards women founders, only 2.7%. So when you think about, you know, just, it's important. We've got to lift that number up. It should be at least 51%, since 51% of women are in this world. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Lubna, to you.
I could not agree with Wendy more, and particularly reproductive health, which is a big issue, especially in the developing world. And then you go down the line from mental and emotional well-being, especially as mental health is probably the you know, sometimes when you have an earthquake, it's the aftershock that is much worse. And when this pandemic passes, the mental health effects on society are going to be potentially much greater, from domestic violence to suicides to what have you. So I think it is mental health, women's health, and remote delivery of medical services is also. And then obviously there's a lot of investments, and very interesting investments in bio and in genome and in delivery of targeted delivery of medicine into cellular delivery of treatments.
Mm-hmm. And real quick on this cellular delivery. So this sounds awesome and very science fiction as well. And I bring science fiction into this because it is something that maybe not many people understand. So if someone's looking to start investing in that space, Lubna, do you have any advice for them? Because it is now science fact. It is now something that people should be paying attention to, right? Looking at rejuvenation of stem cells or genomics in general. There's so much happening in this space that's not being talked about. Any advice that you have to investors that are looking to get into this for the first time?
Take a look at some of the investments that SOSV is doing, and particularly in the Rebel Bio. For example, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but this lovely lady who's created a technology. The company is called, I forgive me if I say it wrong, but it's Syngenica. And it's a biomolecular device that for the programmed delivery of therapeutic molecules directly into living cells. I mean, it could really change the way you treat cancer. But there are so many other investments like that SOS is making in that space. I highly recommend that you take a look, go throughout the list of investments there.
Absolutely. For those who may not know, SOSV is an outstanding organization, but also a fund, and they have a portfolio of accelerators and incubators spread around the world in various categories. One of which is relevant to today's discussion is Indie Bio as well, their program.
There's two.
Thank you. And Rebel Bio as well. There's two. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Yes.
There you go. And Hacks, another program of theirs, which is focused around hardware.
There's a food.
There's a food one, but the Hacks actually has some great companies that have come out of it, referencing to Wendy's point around femtech as well. So definitely check out SOSV and all. D-Lab around blockchain. Yep, around distributed blockchain as well. As you can see, Lubna and I know SOSV and their portfolio very well. A shout out to the founders as well, Ben and Cyril and Sean. So we'll pause there because we'll turn this entire show to SOSV. But yeah. So shout out to the team. Check them out as well, along with GSD Venture Studios, if you haven't already, audience. And Raghu, I want to come to you before we come to quick closing thoughts here. Area that you see very excited that you're looking at here for 2021 that people should be paying attention to, either building or investing in as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at the diabetes area right now because it's like something that is this in the US alone, for instance, there's 30 million people, afflicted with it, and it's something that I think we all have, somebody if that we know, especially at the advanced stages, it makes life very difficult. The cost of treatment is also rising. So I'm looking at some of these. There are like two different things we're looking at. One is like using, immune therapy to kind of reduce insulin, resistance. That is one aspect. So we have this very exciting drug that we are doing second phase 2 trials in Singapore, and then there is another this implant that I talked about, minimally invasive implant. It's just amazing. It tricks the essentially our feedback mechanism. So what it does is the implant sits in the gastric valve, and then there's like a sleeve that goes into the intestine, the first 15% of the intestine, and it does not allow any kind of nutrient interaction across the wall. So this is where all the kind of the important enzymes and bile and pancreatic juice, everything comes in, and the feedback mechanisms are picked up there. And it's just incredible. Within 6 months, people lose weight, and they get off having to use insulin and things like that. And the cost is like much less than something that which keeps you on, right? There's a chronic type of thing. This is reversible. You can actually put the implant in and take it out. So I'm looking for very simple technologies like that. It doesn't cost a lot. It doesn't have doesn't make you a chronic, get you onto a medication that just keeps increasing. And this is something that you treat, and then you can reverse, get your body to adjust itself. So I think those are those and repurposed medicines, because the regulatory process takes a long time. I'm looking at repurposed medicines. Again, you can use AI to see what other areas the already kind of approved medication can go into. I think those are areas of focus for me right now.
Love it. And thank you, Raghu. Any additional closing thoughts and where can everyone find you? And then Wendy, I'll come to you and everyone else around.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Raghu S. Rao. And I think closing thoughts wise, I think immediate thing is we need to get these vaccine into it, pretty much as much of the population as possible, because it looks like the current spike is much worse than what we had in the early part of 2021. And that's sad, because people are kind of frustrated and they think they're letting their guard down. We just need to take care of another couple of months and we get the vaccine for everybody, right? So I think that's what we need to all focus on right now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Raghu. Wendy, to you, closing thoughts. Where can you be found online?
Yes, you can find me on wendydiamond.com. And my closing thoughts is to everyone, find purpose and spend your time during this pandemic to find something that you've always wanted to do and learn, because we all have to be mentally strong during this time, and to eat healthy. Woohoo! Our bodies are not meant to digest processed foods. So whatever you're doing, just make sure when you're eating to try to eat a little healthier, because you'll feel a lot better. And I definitely agree with Raghu. I really pray that these vaccines are able to be distributed a lot faster. And I hope that, we can get back to normal. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. Lubna, to you.
First, I have to find that unmute button. Yes, actually, I love what Wendy just said about finding purpose and taking the time to be true with yourself and harmonize your psychology and your physiology and compassion. Find integrity and with yourself, and compassion for others, and forgiveness, and let's move on to a higher place. And I'm Lubna Dajani at practically everywhere at this point.
Even on Zoom, ladies and gentlemen. With that, Gary Fowler, close us out. Closing thoughts. Where can you be found along with GSTV?
So this is a great time, and unprecedented. And I liken it to the time that we discovered the wheel, right, and how that changed even more so than electricity, because our lives are going to fundamentally change over the next decade. So I'm excited about it. And a few years ago, I worked on a project, Living to 120, with MBA students, in conjunction with some professors at Stanford University. And now that number's higher, it's 150. And we are there. We are really, really developing technologies that are going to help us live a lot longer through the gene splicing, across the board. So I'm excited about it. Anyhow, you can reach me, Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios. You can reach me on Twitter, LinkedIn. I've got a couple of shows. Connect to me, send me an email, or Gary@gsdvs.com. I'm happy to talk to you. This is an exciting time. Keep your chin up, stay optimistic, and go forward, and go get them. Get shit done.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary, Wendy, Lubna, Raghu. Thank you all very much for sharing your thoughts and insights around this area. And we will share Gary's article along with Andreessen Horowitz breakdown of this new industry and some of their top trends that they're looking at, and some of the latest funding information as well. So stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Thank you, Raghu. Do reach out and share. Check out the archive as well if you'd like to hear more from all of our speakers today. Thank you, Gary. And around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world, as we break those down with the best and the brightest from around the world, providing you their on-the-ground perspective of what's happening in each of these areas. And entrepreneurs, what better way to kick off 2021 than joining us on the virtual stage we have here at VCTV for you? Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. And speaking of that team, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott, along with all of our guests on all social medias. And make sure you add context when you reach out so we know how to continue the conversation in the best and most efficient way. With that, we'll be back with more VCTV after a short little break. Thanks, everybody.